Alrighty then, so I've just finished installing and playing for the first time Lawbreakers, which is a team-based shooter that just came out. Well, it's in open beta at the moment. It's soon to be fully released. And I thought I'd just give my first thoughts from my first play. And so far I'm actually really enjoying it. I think that it's challenging, which is something I didn't get out of Overwatch. I found the first few times I played Overwatch it was kind of like taking candy from a child. And that was probably just because there was a lot of new players in the scene. Whereas this, I feel immediately like the skill ceiling is much higher, and lots of the heroes will take a bit more practice and are a bit more fine-tuned, which is rad. I should mention that in this video I only play a couple of the heroes, sort of a couple that I've taken to a bit better than the others, in particular the Enforcer, who I'm currently playing. And the audio for some reason is out of sync, so I do apologise about that. I'll have it turned down for you. I feel like this is quite polished at this stage, to be honest. I don't feel like any of the heroes are particularly broken, or their abilities are particularly overpowered or too easy to use. There are a couple of abilities in the game that I think are a little bit sort of click to win type things, where there isn't necessarily a huge amount of skill involved. But I think less so than Overwatch. And I don't want this to become an Overwatch comparison video because I'm not the biggest fan of Overwatch, and I've only put a couple of hours into Lawbreakers, so I don't feel like I'm in a position to really make a thorough assessment, which I might do in the future, but we'll wait and see. Nonetheless, I feel like there's quite a bit of diversity, and different characters will appeal to different people and different play styles. I've always been sort of a bit of a I don't know, not necessarily the swiftest player when it comes to things, so the faster, more ninja style heroes in this I find particularly challenging, but people that are playing them well seem to be absolutely destroying, so that's really good to see. And I feel like there are, I suppose, significant team aspects to it, that working together does help, and you definitely need a mixture of heroes in your team and players that can play the game differently. But even in these first few days of the open beta, I feel like there is quite a few players that are playing well together, and sort of a bit of synergy is being seen, which is really, really awesome. I think it's absolutely beautiful. I think it feels responsive. You know, there's a lot of shooters out these days that I think they don't feel tactile, which I know is a bit weird when you're playing with a keyboard and a mouse, but I found this immediately. I felt like it was responsive, and you did have control over what was going on, which was something that I was really hoping for. I also think that, I suppose at the end of the day, it is targeting a slightly different audience to a lot of the team-based shooters out there. It's clearly a more mature game. It's got a bit more realism than a lot of the team-based shooters on the market at the moment. And I suppose the language and visual content is definitely targeting a more adult audience. There is a bit of effing and jeffing, and a bit of blood and guts, etc., which I personally, I don't think all of this had the gore turned off. I was just trying to fit it with some of the settings to try and get better performance, because it does seem to be quite intensive on your computer. I'm personally in this video running everything on medium, and we'll fiddle with that a bit more. I could run it all on high, but with my recording software as well, it started to drop a few frames, which I'm not really a fan of, so I turned it down just to try and capture the video capture the video while also having it playable. I think potentially with it up on, I think it has ultra settings, it would be absolutely gorgeous if you could get it to work. Although I don't know whether it would start to feel a bit cluttered if the effects were sort of more overpowering. I have a couple of them turned off, but one of my biggest complaints with a lot of shooters on the markets these days is just you can't actually see what's going on your screen. Whereas here, most of the time I felt like it wasn't too bad. When you go into the low gravity areas, which for those of you that don't know anything about the game, there's sort of areas where there's no gravity, and there's areas where there's gravity, which completely changed the movement within these areas, which is pretty cool. But some of the visual effects on the screen I personally find a bit distracting and a bit overdone, so I'm going to have a fiddle and see if there's a way to really turn off a lot of those particle effects that I don't personally think are necessary. because they're definitely chewing up a lot of GPU and CPU usage. Otherwise though, I felt like it ran okay. I felt like I got a really smooth experience, and personally I didn't notice any real big bugs. There's a couple of times where maybe things were a bit glitchy, but very minimalist, and I'd say, to be honest, that was probably more to do with my GPU performance than the actual game's design. It feels quite finished. It feels like it is a game, and it is close to completion. Obviously they'll be doing a lot of fine tuning after this and during this beta, to try and, I suppose, balance things as best as possible. There's a few maps, a few different game modes, and they each play really differently, which is awesome. It's something that I was a little bit worried about, that it would be a bit repetitive. So far, I'm a fan of the sort of, I suppose it's a cross of King of the Hill and Capture the Flag. I believe it's called Uplink, where you have to capture an uplink, take it to your base, and then wait for it to finish uplinking, if that makes sense. And that, for me, plays really enjoyable. There's a mixture of offense and defense, but it isn't necessarily as movement orientated as some of the other game modes, which I think is where this game will shine. I personally felt like my movement was terrible. Like, people were just absolutely tearing me to shreds, that had obviously played the game a bit more, and doing some really cool stuff, whereas I was a bit sluggish, kind of playing it a lot like just a standard FPS. So hopefully people really start to get their head around the movement system, and the mechanics involved with that, and I think that'll really bring this game to life. We'll see some really cool stuff, and I hope that a few YouTubers sort of support the community, so that more players can come and try this out, because I mean, it's cheaper than a lot of other games on the market at the moment. I mean, the open beta is free, obviously, so go give it a go while you can. But all in all, yeah, like, I would definitely recommend it. I'm really excited about it. I feel like it's a team-based class shooter that's got a lot of potential if the community supports it. So thanks for watching. I'm sorry if this felt like a bit of a ramble. I didn't really know what I wanted to say about it, other than that it was quite enjoyable. But yeah, cheers for watching.